This is Rick Harnish. I'm the Executive Director of the High Speed Rail Alliance. Thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be talking about the Northeast Maglev from Washington to Boston. But first, a little bit of background on us for those who are joining us new. We're a nonprofit focused on education. We strive to be the most knowledgeable independent source of what high-speed rail is, what it does, why we should build it, and how local leaders and federal leaders can get engaged in making it happen. And then we provide the tools that you and local leaders need in order to communicate that with folks in the state capitals and in Washington, D.C. We believe in, and as an aside, this picture is our board member, actually our board president, Maurice Ball, on a trip that he and I were privileged enough to have in 2014 on the test track just outside of Tokyo. It was a very exciting ride on the Maglev, and we're glad that that project's moving forward. We believe in the integrated network approach. So frequently, over many decades, high-speed rail has been sold as something about big city to big city between 100 and 300 miles apart. Certainly, high-speed rail shines in that market and really is a game changer, but it misses the point that it's much more impactful than that. It can serve many more purposes and haul many more people if you think of it as part of a network as opposed to a standalone city-to-city thing. So we believe that, and sometimes you have a single vehicle that's going on multiple different types of infrastructure, and sometimes you have really easy connections between vehicles, depending upon what the local needs are and what your local assets are. And certainly Maglev will be a game changer in this field. As we move forward right now, we've got the best opportunity to make a difference that we've ever had, and probably certainly the best in 10 years. What we are striving for this year is the creation of a big federal program to build high-speed rail and transit across the country, again, with different solutions for different parts of the network. But certainly it needs to impact 49 states, with the Alaska Railroad seeing a huge boost. And I'd even be willing to say that there should be something in Hawaii, though that hasn't been, to bring in 50 states. We need to be very optimistic. We need to think big. We've got some very serious economic challenges and environmental challenges, and we really need to think big in order to solve those problems quickly. And then a different thing that we're different from most passenger rail advocates, we really believe we need to start with what makes sense for the railroads. They have a strong role to play in the connecting portions of the network. We need to treat them like a vendor, just like we treat Boeing as a vendor in our defense systems, and they make a lot of money working for the government. We need to create that sort of positive relationship with the Class I railroads. So I'm really excited to have Wayne Rogers here to talk today about their proposal for Maglev in the Northeast Corridor. Wayne is the chairman and CEO of the Northeast Maglev and Baltimore Washington Rapid Rail companies. It's a franchised railroad to provide high-speed service between Washington and Baltimore. Prior to founding Northeast Maglev in 2011, he spent over 30 years in energy and infrastructure, developing, designing, and constructing hydroelectric and wind projects in 10 states and 13 foreign countries. 40 years ago, when renewable energy was just a dream, he made it happen around the world. Now he's turned his sights to high-speed rail with a mission to employ the world's fastest train on our country's most congested corridor. Wayne earned a Bachelor of Science from the U.S. Naval Academy and his law degree from Georgetown University. So thank you, Wayne, for being with us today. And I will let you take over the controls.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Really great to be in church here on Friday. because I feel like clearly our audience today will be preaching to the choir. So unlike other groups that we appear in front of, I think you'll all be excited to hear what the opportunities are. Go ahead and change the slide. There we go. I want to talk first about the problem, because I know that you have an audience here today that's from all over the country, and we'll focus a little bit on the Northeast Corridor. Northeast Corridor is big and getting bigger. It's 51 million people, 17% of the population on 2% of the land area, 20% of all the workforce in the entire United States. And if we do, as Wayne Gretzky said, skate to where the puck is going to be instead of where it is today, looking ahead to 2040, we're going to add another 12 million people in this corridor. So it's a huge, an important corridor. On the negative side, we have broken infrastructure and really growing problems. Northeast Corridor is 12% of all of our US highway miles. It's 52% of the worst highway bottlenecks. If we look ahead again to 2040, we're going to increase auto travel by 22%. What does that mean? That means for people in Washington, where we are, that now the average commuter spends 102 hours extra stuck in traffic than they would if you could actually move in the corridor. We look at alternatives, airlines up and down the corridor. Northeast Corridor is 30% of all US air trips. And at the same time, 50% of nationwide delays. So if you look, you're out in San Francisco, or you're listening from Houston on here and your plane's delayed, you can probably thank the Northeast Corridor for some of that problem. Again, moving forward to 2040, 102% increase in aviation boardings. Let's shift over to rail. Northeast Corridor is 75% of all the weekday commuter rail riders in the entire United States. 53% of all the commuter rail trains in the United States utilize the Northeast Corridor. That's 9 passenger railroads, 4 freight railroads, all utilizing the shared tracks in the Northeast Corridor. Skating to 2040, again, we're going to see increase in intercity travel of 115%. Quick answer would be, well, let's just put more on the Northeast Corridor. But if you look in the times of 200-mile-an-hour trains, now 300-mile-an-hour trains, only 7% of the current rail could support even a 150-mile-an-hour train. So just being able to say, let's just do it on existing infrastructure won't allow us to do that. Our vision, DC to New York in 1 hour at 311 miles per hour. So what we intend to do is connect city centers and airports. And our first leg is Baltimore, BWRR Airport, and Washington. And then it'll eventually go up the corridor, as you can see, and then future service all the way up the corridor to Boston. Who we are, BWRR is 100% US and also veteran-owned Maryland-based franchised railroad company. And that's important. We'll talk about that later. We have over $120 million in private investment that we've deployed to date on this project. Northeast Maglev is also a 100% US-owned company, and we're promoting the development of the SCMaglev throughout the Northeast Corridor. Central Japan Railway Company, you'll hear something about. They're a private, publicly traded Japanese rail company with over 50 years experience in high-speed rail. They transport today 150 million passengers on their high-speed rail network, traveling on 100,000 trains, and you can get a train every 4 minutes. The average delay for a year for 150 million people is under 30 seconds. At the same time, when they rolled out high-speed rail in 1964, till today, there has never been a fatality on the system. So 100% safety and at speeds we can't imagine. They're also the developer of the SCMaglev system. Our mission, what we're doing, we're committed to deploying this, the world's fastest ground transportation technology in the most congested region in America, the Northeast Corridor. We want to bring this cutting edge technology for the first time to the United States, where the 3 legs we call of our stool are economic development, combating climate change, and fostering a climate of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're also going to use an innovative financing package that will include not only the US government, but also the government of Japan and the private sector. Our board is of the company is supported by experienced both public and corporate sector officials. Tom Daschle chairs the board, who was the former Senate Majority Leader. George Pataki, the former Republican governor of New York. Ed Rendell, the former Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. Christy Todd Whitman, who was former governor of New Jersey and also US EPA administrator. Mary Peters was Secretary of Transportation under President Bush. Rodney Slater was Secretary of Transportation under President Clinton. Kevin Planks, the founder and chairman of Under Armour, and Doug Steenland, who's the chairman of the board of AIG and the former CEO of Northwest Airlines. Back to JRC. Unlike we don't do this, or I should say, we don't do this in our rail system, but we do it in our military system, is that when you deploy something, you start immediately working on the next generation. Japan deployed high-speed steel wheel trains, the 220-mile-an-hour now Shinkansen bullet train. But at the same time, they started looking at what's the next generation of technology. So in 1962, they started technology development on magnetic levitation. And why? Because at around 240 miles an hour, there's technical difficulties on steel wheel trains in terms of being able to increase speed. So there had to be a new technology, a new way to do it if you wanted 300, 400, 500 mile an hour trains. By 1997, they constructed this test track. They began non-revenue operations on that track. They ran testing on it, running trains back and forth under all conditions, all different types of rolling stock, until 2011, when technological standards were approved by the Japanese government. 2012, it was approved for public use. They approved in 2014 extension, so it'll go all the way Tokyo, Osaka, and public revenue service started in 2017 with demand so overwhelming that you had to almost get a lottery to get a ticket to ride it. If you look at the alignment, you can see it's mostly in tunnel inland. The current bullet train goes along the coast, so that not only provides them faster 300-mile-an-hour trains on top of 200-mile-an-hour trains, it did not do away with the 200-mile-an-hour train. It was complementary on a parallel and somewhat separate alignment for reliability purposes. Next slide. How does it work? A maglev works in a U-shaped guideway, and you can see here in the side of the train, there's superconducting magnets, and this is SCMaglev is superconducting maglev. That's different than normal maglev and proprietary to the Japanese. What superconductivity is, for many of you who may not know, it's when you chill certain metals down to minus 500 degrees, electrical resistance goes away. Given that, you could have a very strong magnet in a very small space. Or in the electric business, we could transmit electric power from San Francisco to Washington without any losses. In the walls of this U-shaped guideway, and think of them almost like Jersey barriers, you have propulsion coils and also levitation and guidance coils. So what happens is very quickly you change the polarity in the guidance in the system there. And what it does, it levitates the train, and the magnetic also keeps it in place. So it can't go too high, too low by opposing forces. So very simplistically, if you could think when you were a child with opposing magnets, you saw how something floated. Next slide. Project accomplished to date, it's been 10 years of privately funded work. Maryland Railroad's franchise is granted in 2015. That's important because that means we as a company have the power to develop the railroad, eminent domain, all the things that come with being an actual railroad without need of use of the government. We have an agreement for no-cost technology transfer from Japan. We have an agreement from Japan to provide significant financial support. Private sponsors are covering the state match for any federal grants, as well as in private investment in there. The federal government has committed $54 million to date, covering in federal and state environmental impact studies and also further work. The draft environmental impact statement is complete. It's been 5 years in the process, including public hearings. We've had more than 200 public meetings getting to this point, and preliminary engineering design is also complete. Next slide. We look at this first leg. It's going to be Washington to Baltimore with a stop at BWI. It's mostly in tunnel, 75%. The reason for that is we've set up a project where you can go Washington to Baltimore in one of the most congested corridors in the country without needing to condemn a single residence. So there won't be any condemnation of private homes anywhere on the alignment. The area that it's on a viaduct, which is above the ground, is on federal property in our proposal that parallels I-295, the Baltimore Washington Parkway. And you can see on this map the two major arteries between Washington and Baltimore, 95 and 295. Typical cross sections, you can see the tunnel, two-way traffic within about a 45-foot diameter tunnel, and then the 25% that's in alignment of the alignments in a viaduct above the ground. You see what that looks like. Japanese safety standards, you are either under the ground or you're above the ground. So there can be no issue of anyone crossing across the road with a high-speed rail. And it's one of the reasons, safety by design, that they're able to keep the high safety standards that they have. What is our schedule going forward? We hope the EIS and permitting will be completed in 2022 so that we finish final design and can start construction. As I said, we've been more than 5 years in the permitting. We did the single document permitting system. So we've had 30 state, federal, and local agencies all cooperating on one document. That DIS that was issued is over 4,000 pages long. And so that all federal, state, and local permitting decisions can be taken from that one document. So we hope that that'll be finalized by the end of the year, first quarter next year, and we can move right into final design and then construction. Talking about the three legs of our stool. First, tremendous economic opportunity, jobs, regional jobs, the construction just of Washington to Baltimore. It's 161,000 job years. So 123,000 job years in construction and 38,000 in professional services. And what that means is $8.8 billion in employee earnings. So a huge economic impact. Second leg of the stool, environment. 2 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions, 76,000 tons of carbon monoxide. Everybody on this call is used to these slides about rail. And then you have some people in the public that just roll their eyes. Here comes another slide about emissions reduction from a train project. But here's a view of our area. And essentially, there should be no debate on this issue. This is air pollution in the Washington, New York corridor in 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And if you look at just DC to Baltimore, all 4 counties in that area are in non-attainment for air quality. And we look at March 2020, it's dramatic what you can see the difference. So, and what was March 2020? COVID. Everybody stayed home, and look at the air quality in our region. Reduction in vehicle miles traveled. I mean, some people are going to say, oh, this may be competitive with Amtrak or a MARC train, which is the Maryland commuter train. It is not. What we are targeting is automobiles. If you look at this under the no build alternative, and we looked at those numbers we talked about, 94% of the people in our area, DC to Baltimore, still get in their cars and drive. It's over 125 million trips a year, just DC to Baltimore, back and forth in automobiles. If we build the SCMaglev, we're going to divert somewhere 9 to 12% of the automobile traffic into this train. And so that says taking equivalent of 11 to 16 million cars off the road each year. And that's a huge number. Baltimore Washington Parkway, I showed you that we're going along. AAA had an article not too long ago saying staying safe while dodging tire-eating potholes. What you have is not only an environmental issue, you have a safety issue. 295 has multiple crashes every day. It's an average of 6 deaths and 547 crashes a year. That's 2 to 3 per day. 1 in 4 crashes result in serious injuries. And again, it's not surprising We have 120,000 cars a day just on 295 between Maryland 50 and Maryland 175. That's 43 million cars in a very short section of that highway. It was originally designed in 1954 for a maximum of 50,000 cars a day. What does that mean? Chances, health risks, not only with pollution, but health risks for accidents. And if you do, that's an economic risk. Those people that were spending an extra 102 hours in their cars are also spending $2,161 a year stuck in traffic. Plus, if you get in an accident on 295, it's a $1,500 average cost to repair even a rim that's damaged by a pothole. 61% of Americans couldn't even afford a $1,000 extraordinary repair. So this is a huge problem. What Maglev would do is the equivalent of adding 8 lanes to 295 on a route that's never been improved since 1954 when it was built. Diversity, equity, inclusion. That's an important part of our proposal as well. For our workforce for construction, we're targeting 40% of our construction-related jobs to go in Maryland to people of color and women. And so that's a very large goal. And we think there are workforce development goals that are normally 25% or so going forward, that if we can hit this construction goal, we'll be able to exceed our business opportunity and our workforce goals as well for the longer term. But we focused a lot on that. We have a written plan. It was developed in a cooperation with civil rights groups, and we've had lots of discussions surrounding that. We see our project really as complementing existing rail. We showed you the problem of population in our corridor. Maryland Department of Transportation, MTA, expects that 70% of all MARC system stations will be at capacity by 2025. So in 4 years' time, every station is going to be at capacity. And the answer would be, well, put on more MARC trains. That's very difficult because we also have Amtrak running in the corridor at the same time. So any increase in Amtrak volume decreases MARC volume. So you really have a collision of this tremendous ridership growth with very constrained infrastructure. Amtrak. Northeast Maglev supports Amtrak financing to repair our aging, broken infrastructure in the Northeast Corridor. The NEC has a state of good repair deficit that's calculated at $42 billion. So we need to put $42 billion for the status quo, but what's going to happen with growth? If you look at the infrastructure master plan, half the rail segments from Boston to Washington exceed already 75% of capacity. And by 2030, Baltimore Washington will exceed greater than 100%. So we're going to have MARC at 100%, Amtrak at 100%, and 94% of the people still taking their cars. The 2017 NEC future. NEC cannot meet today's or forecasted future demand due to physical and operational constraints. Yes, we can make some changes and some improvements in Amtrak, and we support that. But fundamentally, if we're going to attack economic efficiency, climate change, hundreds of millions of riders, we have to have a new solution. The project has been endorsed by civic groups, union labor groups, local business organizations, everything from the National Association of Building Trades to the Maryland Hispanic Chamber, the National Action Network, or the normal chambers of commerce throughout the Eastern Atlantic states of carpenters. So lots of union support, even down to church support. The National Capital Baptist Convention is supporting the train. Public support, we have a petition that's online where people can go online and sign a petition to support it. So far, 19,500 people have signed the petition supporting the project. We did our draft environmental impact statement. As you said, we had 6 live virtual public hearings on the DEIS, and 79% of the comments that were testified at the hearing were positive comments. And for all of you in the infrastructure business that know what it's like to go to a DEIS hearing, it's usually the reverse, 80% negative, 20% positive. We had written comments submitted to date. 82% of the comments that have been submitted are positive comments. We've done public polling in the area. 86% of the people in this corridor here support the Baltimore DC Maglev. We went even to the areas there is less support that you may read or hear about in Prince George's County, where there's concerns about the fact that we only have a Washington, BWI, and Baltimore, and they'd like more commuter rail stops in this high-speed train. It's still 3-to-1 or 3.5-to-1 in favor of the project. So project anti-voices are very loud, but they do not meet with the majority of the people. This is some quick ones that'll show you what it's going to look like. This is the station. It's all new stations, all new infrastructure. It's a station in downtown DC that would be near the convention center. If you're familiar with DC, it's right across the street. And what you'd be able to do, not only to be closer to the central part of Washington, DC than where Union Station is, but you'd also be able to connect with the metro lines right next door. So you'll be able to take the Maglev, land in Baltimore Airport, go right downstairs. In 8 minutes, you're in downtown DC. Either go upstairs and walk, metro, ride, etc., and you could go throughout the city. Next slide. This gives you an idea what it's going to look like at BWI Airport. And why this is different is right now in the Northeast Corridor, the train stations are not at the airport. So if I'm going up in the train, you'd have to go land, as 25 million people a year do at BWI, land, go downstairs, get your luggage, go outside, take a bus to the train station, and then from there, wait for a commuter train and then go. What happens is most of the people are just going to go out and get an Uber, get in their car, and it contributes to the traffic. Our plan is putting the station integral inside the terminal. So you'd be able to land in the airplane, go down one level, pick up your luggage, and then go down one more level and get right on the train. 5 minutes, you're in downtown Baltimore. 8 minutes, you're in downtown DC, faster than you would have just walking out in front, waiting for the bus to take you to the parking lot. Here's a picture of the Baltimore station. Baltimore station here, it connects into I-95, 295, I-95. The light rail station is right next door and almost right underneath where our station would be here. So again, multimodal, think of it as an internet backbone. We have a 311-mile-an-hour high-speed rail that'll take you the long distance, and then last mile distance could be walk, bike, metro, light rail, whatever you'd like to choose going forward. I know not everybody, has a chance to go and ride the Maglev in Tokyo, but what we did is we had a group of MIT engineering students go to Tokyo, ride the Maglev with their professor, and I have to show you a quick video of their trip.
This is like another world.
This is like the future.
It is a dream come true.
This is a marvel of engineering.
Feels crazy. It's going to be an out-of-this-world experience.
I'm ready to do this. I'm so excited. Let's do it.
We're going back.
The train will soon make a transition from wheel-running mode to levitation mode. Listen carefully, and you will notice a change in the running sound.
Oh my god, too fast.
I'm getting so fast.
Oh, that's great. There was more vibration with people walking to get off than there was at 300 miles an hour. I think, it's a beautiful piece of technology by design, and then it's been implemented in this absolutely fantastic way.
It was
It was so much smoother than I expected.
I could have probably taken a nap on the train and be very happy.
It's extremely comfortable and quiet. You immediately feel emotional to be there because it's like you're in the 22nd century.
You could connect so many cities so quickly, it'd practically be a metropolis. You could be everywhere in just the blink of an eye. It'd be amazing.
I think it's going to have a very big impact in the U.S. because it's going to not only change the transportation standard that we have, but it's going to force the U.S. to actually improve its infrastructure.
It will change my life tremendously. Do it.
It's completely transformed. It's amazing.
You just have to feel it to live it.
Ready for the ride.
You'll have fun. You'll feel like you're in the future.
All right, well, thank you very much, and love to take some questions.
Sorry about that, on mute. That was excellent. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section, and let me see if anybody's put any questions in yet. No good questions. You know, my immediate question, when I saw that picture of the station underneath BWI, I have long wished that we could have a serious discussion about a railroad station under O'Hare. And whenever we start that discussion, aviation immediately shuts it down and says TSA would never allow it, right? And we're in the process right now in Chicago of doing new terminals that I believe should have a train station under it. So how did you have that conversation? Was there any pushback? How do you make sure that TSA is comfortable with it, et cetera?
Well, we engaged with BWI Airport early in the process. And so there's a lot of engagement. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years now, and through the EIS for 5 years, a lot of engagement about this. When we say in tunnel, we're talking about deep tunnel. I mean, you're 150 feet, and in some places 200 feet under the ground. So it's done by a tunnel boring machine, and it's done very deep in the ground. So essentially the risk to BWI is much less than the risk would be even if you rode the DC Metro or something going through Washington, DC, because that's on a much shallower basis. So you have something that's very deep under the ground that would, if someone, of course, let's hope that doesn't happen, anyone does a terrorist attack, but essentially the answer on that is where you place it.
Okay, okay. I get frustrated having these conversations when, especially when driving or going in a taxi underneath the runways at LAX or at Fort Lauderdale. It's like, wait a minute, anybody can drive a truck under here. Why is this okay, right?
And I know Amtrak's trying to fix it, but even if you look at going to Philadelphia, that you take the train, you have to take the train north from Baltimore to Philadelphia, Center City, Philadelphia, turn around and go back south again to get to the airport. So you don't even get off right there. I know that's one of the plans that Amtrak has to fix that, but it's this idea that you can see everywhere else in the world. You land at an airport and go down and get right on the train system. Part of that is we need new infrastructure because we can't just move all the train lines everywhere from where they are. So the thought is in the Northeast Corridor, and I really enjoyed the Brightline presentation when they had it a few weeks ago. We called it the Northeast Corridor was the holy grail of transportation because just the number of people that are traveling on that. And if you look at the growth, I mean, that's the real issue. We're talking about hundreds of millions of trips going back and forth. So we really need new infrastructure to get people off cars.
Excellent. Well, the first question out was just to go in an order is this video online somewhere?
I'll find out. It's probably on our website, but if not, I'll get, they can email me at wrogers@northeastmaglev.com and I'll make sure you get it.
I just posted the link in that question.
Okay, great. He posted the link.
Excellent. So I'll ask Sherry's question the way she writes it. How was this justified instead of conventional high-speed rail? This would be a big leapfrog.
Yeah, if you look at the Northeast Corridor, and I can't speak to the rest of the country, but if you look at the Northeast Corridor, as we said before, you have everything pretty much at grade. Only 7% of the alignment can have high-speed rail. So if you're going to put in steel wheel high-speed rail, let's say 200-mile-an-hour high-speed rail, you would have to lay an entirely new alignment. Going from Washington, D.C. through the middle of Washington, D.C. with a new at grade level alignment through that is straight enough for high-speed rail, and then through neighborhoods and everything you'd need to do, that's impossible, frankly. It would never pass muster its items. So that says, all right, you're going to have to go in tunnel if you do it. Now, if we're turning around and making the expenditure for tunneling, you would want to, at that point, if the infrastructure cost is your big cost. So if we're going to build tunnels, let's put, and it's going to be brand new, let's not spend the huge amount on the tunnels and then, you know, try to save a few dollars here and make it a 200-mile-an-hour train as opposed to 300-mile-an-hour train. We studied that very much in depth. That does it make sense in terms of the big project to just use a steel wheel? And the answer is no. At some point when your house needs to be redone, you need to knock it down and put a new house on.
So what's the estimated cost for construction?
So it depends on the final agreement on alignments and station location, but it's somewhere north of $10 billion. So we're talking about $13 billion.
Okay. And as a comparison, we are in Chicago wrapping up a $15 billion expansion program and just launched an $8 billion expansion program at O'Hare. So,
and also if you look in the things that we talked about delay, the cost of doing nothing, the $2,000 per person, they've estimated in our quarter, it's $4.6 billion a year that's expended being stuck in traffic compared to, you know, what you'd have to pay. So there isn't just what's it cost to do it, it's what's it cost if you're not doing it.
Excellent. And what's the difference in construction cost versus the tunnel and the elevated?
It's probably at least double to do it in the tunnel. And, you know, we have tunnel boring machines that we're going to use, which is more expensive. Again, you're not going to do a cut and cover tunnel because, again, you have buildings, houses, everything is going to be up above you. And we're deep in tunnels. So it's somewhere at least twice the price.
Okay. You know, well, I'll just ask you, do you have plans to expand to other parts of the country? If you looked at any others, and where would it be if once you get this one, which would be the next one?
We really haven't. It's a very expensive solution. We know it's expensive, you know, to go in terms of infrastructure. The value of time in the Northeast Corridor, when you talk about New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and the population density. So if I'm looking at this strictly as a business, and even if I was selling Coca-Cola and I had 75% of my market in one area, I'd really look to fix that. And it's really what you need is this high population density, because you're going to need millions of riders in order to make it work financially. So we haven't looked beyond Washington to New York. I mean, other than to say Boston, but I mean, our real focus, huge focus, get the shovel in the ground, Washington to Baltimore. Focus number 2, take it from Baltimore to New York, and then after there to go to Boston. And so I think we're going to be full for, you know, a number of years.
Excellent. So what's the benefits of using permanent magnets instead of electromagnetic magnets? And in general, I don't understand the magnet conversation at all. I just know that they work. So.
Well, these are electromagnets, and I couldn't answer the question. I'll try to find out. I'll have to ask the Japanese about that, who spent 50 years on it. I'm taking that kind of at face value on that they've designed through all of that. It's amazing, you know, what they've done. And somebody I think pointed out in the chat that I misspoke about the 500 degrees, and that's probably correct. It's probably 400 44.2 or something, which again, I don't know the exact number, but the idea is making it super cold. So that happens. So I couldn't tell you other than that is an electromagnet they have, and they're helium cooled.
Excellent. And then emergency evacuation out of the tunnels. Are there sidewalks alongside the channels?
Yeah, Craig, if you can go back while I talk, go back quickly to that section view of the elevated. What we have is every 5 kilometers or roughly 3 miles, there is a, we'll call it fresh air emergency exit. And what that does is it takes you up in elevators and or steps from the train up to the surface. All along the train, the entire train, what you have is you have the 2 trains, as you saw in the picture, sitting above in that circle. Below that is an escape gallery that's sealed off completely from the train. So if you needed to get off the train, you would get off the train. There's steps all along the entire thing, and you would go down below in the escape gallery, and you'd be able to walk through. So you see where the train in this slide right here, you see the you see the escape gallery down there. There is access to that all along the train. And so even in the unlikely event there was a fire or anything else in a tunnel, you're sealed off completely from the rest of the tunnel. And you would just walk out to the next exit, and it takes you right up to the surface.
Okay. And then on the elevated version, it looks like the walkways are alongside.
Yeah, the walkways are all along the elevated version. So you can get out at any point, really.
Okay. So I think you kind of, I think you kind of addressed this, but what's the timeline for getting to construction?
Well, hurdle number 1 is completing all the permitting, which again, we feel like we're 5 years into the permitting of it. We hope that we can finish it off in the next year. And so if that's the case, we've got another year that we're going to be doing all the final design and things that go with it. So, and the financing put together, et cetera. So we hope by 2023, you know, if everything can stay on schedule, which as I'm sure everybody on the call knows, is a difficult pull in the tent, even when you added COVID on top of it. But we hope by 2023, you'll have shovel in the ground, but there's obviously significant work in sort of all the design and all the other things that are done, you know, before that. Land acquisition, all those things.
Okay. And then, so I stumbled upon, but haven't read, a study that Stanford did in the mid-70s about the concept of taking a maglev and putting it into an evacuated tube so that you would reduce the air friction. Elon Musk took that concept and put a fancy name to it and drew some fancy drawings around it and called it Hyperloop. And I know that they're talking also with the state of Maryland about a similar route. How do the two relate to each other, not relate to each other, different rights of way, et cetera?
Yeah, there's sort of 3 levels, 3 answers to that. First, okay, they do not relate to each other at all in terms of the projects themselves. Second, in terms of Hyperloop as a concept, clearly air resistance in the tunnel is one of your biggest drags. So that's something that's been well known even into the 18th century, you know, that you have that. The Japanese studied that extensively for 20 or 30 years and could not make that work. In other words, lots of problems with keeping a vacuum in the tunnel, and then all the things you'd have with safety and how are you evacuating in a tunnel that's in a vacuum, and all of the things, running it more like an airplane in terms of safety. And acceleration is another thing. Our train accelerates at 0.1 G. What does that mean? That means no seat belts. You can get up and walk around. For those who've ridden the Amtrak in the Northeast Corridor, 300 miles an hour. It's a smoother trip at 300 miles an hour than it would be at 50 miles an hour on an Amtrak train. So you accelerate slowly, so you're not thrown back into the seat. And when you have distances between cities that aren't very far, you're never even, getting up to that speed unless someone's going to, again, get strapped in, not have a bathroom, do all that. So many issues around it. I think even the Northeast Corridor Hyperloop backed off and came up with a new concept, which was Loop, which is essentially Tesla cars inside a tunnel. And they just released that in Las Vegas. They run about 35 miles an hour. So for us, frankly, it's a totally different thing. I mean, we're talking about a train that exists in Japan, that's mass transit, 300 miles an hour, moving thousands of people. And that needs some more concept development.
And, so Las Vegas is the first to do that Tesla in a small tunnel concept.
Yes.
And it looks like they're having serious trouble with getting people into and out of the cars. So it's really a pretty low capacity system.
I mean, that's our whole game, is get people out of their cars. And there's a middle ground. You could say, well, it'd be better to get people in electric cars. So what we're trying to do, as someone pointed out earlier, we are jumping over. I mean, my energy business, I worked all the way around the world and went to places in India where they had no telephone service at all. And I thought, this is going to take forever. And what happened is they went from no hard lines to cell phones. So you were able to jump over technology and leap over stages of development. I think I have on my wall right here in the office in the back, the High-Speed Rail Act of 1965, that when Japan, and it's the pen and the thing signed by President Johnson. And when Japan did the 1964 high-speed rail, they said the United States has got to get with it. We passed, and the president said in signing the bill that we can circulate a man around the moon faster than they can get from DC to New York. And a lot more people want to go from DC to New York than want to circle the moon. And we need high-speed rail. And that was 1965. And here we are in 2021. Well, the time for the 200 mile an hour in this quarter is gone. We've missed it. Maglev started in 1998. Government started looking Maglev deployment program. So I would say we missed the boat on that. And let's just jump. No one would go back and buy an iPhone 1 right now. I mean, if an iPhone 12's out, they're going to go right from no iPhone to the 12.
Well, I went from no iPhone to 7, but but yes, I get your point.
Okay.
But I have had lots of questions, lots of folks asking. So one thing, I said I'm thrilled about the fact that you figured out how to get under BWI Airport, and to have that in an EIS is just so exciting. The other is, people keep saying there's no right of way, there's no right of way, there's no right of way. You found a right of way. Fantastic, right? That's great. Now then I get questions a lot. Well, could these tunnels then be, if folks decided to go a different direction, could they be used for conventional high-speed trains if you decided Maglev wasn't really it?
They could, certainly. I mean, you just take the guideway out and you'd put tracks in if you were really going to do that. So it's certainly possible. Not our plan.
What's that?
It's not our plan.
Absolutely. The last question, I think it looks like, unless somebody put something in chat, let me make sure there isn't anything in chat. Looking at that diagram without actually understanding the costs and the geology and all of that, there's some temptation to say, why not just take that boring machine and go all the way from Washington to Baltimore instead of having that section where it's elevated? So why not just do that?
2 or 3 things. Tunneling is a very slow process. So actually we'll end up using 8 tunnel boring machines, and you'll go along and you'll put entry levels down to the tunnel, and they'll go both ways. And we're going to go through 4X. You're going to have 8 tunnel boring machines boring all at one time to reduce the time of construction. So number one. And the area in the center, that 8 mile, as we said, it's 2, maybe 3 times, depending on what is more expensive to tunnel. So the idea of putting it in an area that's not, that area we're above ground is all on federal property, not on private property. So the thought is then we won't necessitate needing to put it right along the highway, do it. So it reduces the cost of the overall project. Secondarily, you get a lot of experience too for places around the country of stuff on a viaduct and in a tunnel. So when we want to look at it as a model for the entire country, and again, we're not chasing after the Maglev, shall we say, in other areas, but many other people may want to do it. And so it would be a great thing to be able to have, here it is an underground station, here it is riding underground, here it is on a viaduct, here it is coming into an above ground station. And we have all of that just in that 40-mile distance that we have between DC and Baltimore.
Excellent, excellent. So let me see. I think we've got most of the questions. There were some duplicates. So going once, going twice. If you have another question, please put it in the Q&A.
And Craig, why don't you put up that last slide that has how to get a hold of us? You know, the one I didn't put there, but people on the call may have questions that they didn't think of until afterward, which usually happens to me. You come off and then you think, gosh, I wish I would have thought of that. And we'd be glad, just email us, go on the website, find out the information, etc.
And then what is the target? Oops. Yeah. Okay.
And we have the ability also, if you want to sign the petition, you can have that slide, go on social media. We'll put up all the different ones they can find information.
Excellent.
There we go.
And are you, Craig, is that you putting those blocks in there, or am I?
I don't know what, there's a block in the center.
Okay. You may have said this, but when is the target date for revenue service for Tokyo to Nagoya?
It's in revenue service right now with the short sections that they have, but it'll be 2027 is the thought that it would be open all the way Tokyo to Nagoya. And, you know, I went to Japan and flew in a helicopter over the alignment of what they're doing all the way to Tokyo, Nagoya. And you saw that going inland to the country, and it really can't appreciate it, even on a map, that they're building this in what's the Japanese Alps. So they're tunneling through mountains and snow and everything up there. It's incredible. And I came back from that thinking, oh my gosh, I thought DC to Baltimore was hard. I mean, they're doing some real hard stuff in terms of what they're doing. And at the same time, they're adding on to existing stations like Tokyo stations and not disrupting any of the current service, which again, I can't get a pothole fixed in front of my office here without things going up and the traffic being stopped and everything. It's extraordinary, moving millions of people, people come in at night and put things in, and then the morning it's ready to go. It's incredible. So it's 2027, maybe delayed a year or so. COVID impact had slowed things down. You had to stop construction on part of it because of all the workers and COVID, but we'll see. It may not be able to meet that date. They're working on how they can catch up.
But but today you can do that ride that I did in 2014, where you go out really fast and then back.
Yes, and you could do the Baltimore to DC ride today. You know, the only difference is we have 120 million people going in there, and if you went out to Yamanashi, there's not that many people. They're going to go between these two cities there that they've got on the either end. It's mostly people coming to see what it's going to be like.
Excellent. And then one last question from John. Do you think there would be political pressure to add more stations on the route?
There absolutely, yes. There already has been political pressure on that. So that's why I pointed like the Prince George's County, some of the issues we have. We've had a lot of pressure, and I think it's one of the benefits of being a private project is you're just going to have to take the heat somehow and stick with the business plan on this. I mean, what we're connecting is city centers and airports at 300 miles an hour. And there's no point going out on the DC Beltway in a Maserati at rush hour and sitting there at 35 miles an hour or trying to speed up. And as soon as you speed up, you slow down to go to the next station. We're not everything to everybody. We think we're the high-speed fiber optic network that's connecting these major pieces. And then what everybody else will feed into these ultimately. So your point is straight on. It's probably one of the biggest problems we have right now is everybody wants a station.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you. This was very interesting. I'm glad that we were able to set this up. Let us know if our members can help in any way, and really appreciate you being here today. So
they certainly can. If they can, social media, sign up for the petition, go online, submit comments or anything, all that's, you know, the FRA looks at all that stuff. So we'd be glad to have as many people as possible say the time is now to build high-speed rail.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you to the attendees for joining us. If you liked this, please go to hsrail.org and hit the join button, and we will continue to move forward. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much.